For more reasons than I'm willing to explain right now, Treyarch needed the tomb to be a success more than Zombies players needed it to be a success. And today, we'll discuss how the community slowly discovered the weird Easter egg of this strange map, as well as the very volatile reaction to it, and ultimately, where we go from here. The launch of Black Ops 6 Zombies came bearing a huge amount of promise. Many players quickly fell in love with Terminus and its boss fight, while Liberty Falls slowly grew on the player base as a fun side map, a pleasant surprise after all the pre-launch negativity and hesitation. However, the past few months has seen Black Ops 6 begin to fall down a rather slippery slope. General complaints about Black Ops 6, and specifically its multiplayer mode, has seen player counts and general sentiment drop into precarious territory. Zombies has naturally felt the full force of this, with an array of creators commenting about the alarming speed in which Zombies' interest has dropped post-launch. Multiplayer issues aside, Treyarch Zombies team have made some very questionable choices that they must hold themselves accountable for, but that's something we'll get into a little bit later. However, despite all of these issues, a potential saving grace loomed on the horizon. The launch of new content in any game, if executed correctly, will often act as a brief band-aid for more fundamental issues, and this is true with almost every Call of Duty I can think of. A successful launch with a fun Easter egg and a satisfying ending would have provided Treyarch with some very brief respite from the barrage of negativity they've faced recently. Unfortunately though, the tomb played out in a very different way. I want to just start by saying that 2 hours before the map launched, the map had launched.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
A glitch or bug with remote play seemingly allowed some users early access to the map, with one live streaming their playthrough on Twitch. Thankfully, however, the Easter egg quest would not go live until the intended time, meaning that no real spoilers were discovered. Although this initial bug would set a bad omen and a real theme for the rest of the map's launch.
Can we leave? I don't know, is there a way to save this? If we pause or something?
Someone pull out your Ethernet cable, maybe?
For many Easter egg racers, the hunt sadly ended before it could even really begin. An array of different bugs prevented a variety of players in different circumstances from really being able to play the map at all. To start off, no more than 5 minutes into the map's launch, a large amount of reports began to come in from PC players reporting that their game would crash after killing just 3 zombies. Treyarch were fairly quick to let players know that this was an issue with AMD graphics cards, and turning off the gore setting would fix this instantly. Although this was an easy resolution, the excitement of a new map to be so quickly crushed by a game-breaking bug set Treyarch instantly on the back foot.
Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
Those without AMD GPUs were not immune from the launch chaos either, as the update seemed to have caused a bug in the HUD settings that meant no players who edited their HUD in the lobby were cursed with unplayable low frame rates. A Reddit user named Zolm claims to have found some sort of workaround if you're still suffering with this. Finally, players who wanted to settle down on the couch and play split screen, you just couldn't. Or they could, but only sometimes. And it seems no one really could pin down a consistent fix. All of these bugs stop players from even accessing the map to begin with, which is possibly a gamer's biggest frustration on a new content drop. Thankfully though, once players were in the map, there was no bugs at all. It was just smooth and amazing, and there's definitely no sarcasm or foreshadowing in my voice as I'm saying this.
I feel like our game just bugged.
For those who had made it into the game, the hunt for the Easter egg was on, and the first thing many players were looking to obtain was the new Ice Staff. The tomb plays heavily on nostalgia to Treyarch's most important Easter egg map, Origins, which we just talked about in the last video, with even its name having somewhat of a link to the original datamine name for Origins, La Tuma, a French dig site, an ancient ice staff, and mini gramophones around the map are just a few of the many nods to Black Ops 2's final map. In reality though, they are nothing more than just nods, and the implementation of them probably does the map more harm than good, as players have something to compare it to. For some players, the search for the ice staff would last no more than 10 minutes, as it could be obtained instantly from the box via good luck or the Wonder Bar Gobblegum. The juxtaposition to have an ancient staff powered with ice, so easily obtainable from the box, just felt weird, especially for those who've experienced getting the OG Ice Staff. For those without a Wonder Bar or any box RNG, the actual quest to obtain the 3 parts was less than impressive too. After players had obtained the monocle from a defeated mimic, some noticed a series of symbols lit up on the wall on one of 3 walls around the map, eventually relating their appearance to the presence of a purple crystal lantern in the room. This started a puzzle in which the players had to count to 8 or 10. After this, a brief lockdown would follow, although for some teams this came with the added annoyance of another soft locking bug.
Don't say that.
No, it's during the quest step, it's the purple ball is stuck here.
What may have prevented these crashes was a brand new Starforge PC. Using my link down below, you guys can pick one up right now. I don't like saying this about the devs because I know they're usually rushed and they're trying their best. This step just seems so lazy, and it really set a tone of what will quickly become another theme of the tomb. Counting Roman numerals in a hard to see font is not an adequate puzzle step in my opinion, especially when there are some easy ways to make this much more interesting. Treyarch could have randomized the order and hidden it on a piece of paper around the map, or they could have switched the symbols to something else and made players shoot the constellation shape of the animal they're seeing on the wall, without being guided through it with simple counting. What's even lazier to me is that this step would have to be repeated for each of the last 2 staff parts. Having the same step mechanic for 2 out of the 3 parts just doesn't sit right with me personally, especially when the first part is just discovered accidentally anyways. After all of the parts were obtained, players had to defend them from the Dark Aether realm as they were fused together. This step is honestly pretty fun, as the hordes of zombies that rush you require a little bit of coordination to repel, and the step is pretty easy to fail if you're not prepared. Despite this, I can't help but feel the Ice Staff quest is just a flop. I'm not even trying to sound elitist, and I know there will be someone in the comments telling me that this map was never meant to be like Origins in terms of size and scale, and that I should stop comparing it to a map that's over a decade old. But if that's the case, Treyarch should have never added the Ice Staff and many other nods to Origins. Using the nostalgia bait to market the map to its player base was always going to lead to unfair comparisons between the two. Treyarch could have literally reskinned the Ice Staff to be any other wonder weapon, and I truly believe there would be less criticism. But instead, they let comparison become the thief of joy for many players. After the Ice Staff had been obtained, the next couple of hours of the Easter egg hunt became incredibly fascinating to watch, as teams split off in varying directions to follow a step they believe was the next in the main quest. 2 wooden boxes were found in the Dark Aether that, once broken, would reveal 2 statue heads. Players put 2 and 2 together and figured that these headless statue bodies in the spawn room would probably act as a good spot to place these, and doing so allowed them to start probably the coolest Easter egg step in Black Ops 6 so far.
I'm frozen. Okay.
Oh, the name's
Loads of mimics. Loads of mimics.
Oh wow, I went to 1 HP.
Yeah, I was 1 HP as well. Like, this is too ridiculous. Is it because we're not shooting them?
It feels like they're not dying either.
Ow.
Wow.
Wow.
What did we have to do there, chat?
The blood sacrifice was hard. Like, really hard.
That's what she said.
It set players to 1 HP and left them with only their armor to protect them. It's safe to say that nobody was expecting a step of this difficulty, and it caused something we haven't seen in a long time in a zombies Easter egg hunt: mass wiping. It wasn't just average Joes being cleaned up by this step. Even the most hardcore of veterans were being sent back to the lobby. The extent of the wiping was so much so that almost 2 hours into the race, the majority of the teams that we were tracking were just starting their runs all over again.
I'm gonna keep it real, guys. First hour, we really haven't found out that much, and everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead.
That's the progress. People are gonna come and say, what's the progress so far? The progress is everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead. This was truly awesome, and something that no one expected to see, as Treyarch rarely catches players out in such a fashion. However, it would be a whole lot more funny once we saw the blood sacrifice completed for the first time.
We try to freeze the step.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait, it's gonna hit the bulls?
Right in the booty.
Wait, what is happening?
What is going on?
What is happening, guys? Everybody lock in. Where is that going? Symbol.
free gold armor.
Get baited. Whole community, get baited. You thought you were doing the main thing? That was only another side thing.
There was a side?
Oh my gosh, get baited, everybody.
That's right. The completion of the blood sacrifice was found by players to be completely unrelated to the progression of the main Easter egg quest. The difficult ritual wasn't entirely fruitless though, as those who completed it were rewarded with golden armor that regenerated over time. This side Easter egg is some serious S tier work by Treyarch. By this point, those who had not been distracted by the blood ritual had discovered the true next step in the main quest in upgrading the ice staff, although it seems some teams discovered this entirely by accident. In the Dark Aether, some players noticed a floating rock engraved with a purple rune, but others with the ice staff couldn't see this at all. Even on a run back by a player named Kingman, he couldn't figure out how he progressed this step.
Because last game I just shot 3 and it worked fine. Okay, yeah, let's see. So maybe you need all of them for it to work. Maybe. That's that one.
The reason for this is some teams with multiple ice staffs had inadvertently progressed through the lantern step, where they needed to freeze 3 crystal lanterns within 10 seconds of each other. This really tripped up a lot of teams, as the step was just unclear, and some thought all lanterns on the map must be frozen, and others were unaware of the step's time constraints. This step seemingly also fell foul to the map's bugginess, with some players finding that they couldn't get 3 lanterns to spawn close together to shoot within 10 seconds, with it being especially tough for those who didn't have an upgraded augment for better movement. Once players had obtained access to the floating runes, they would need to obtain a 3-rune code and input it onto a now closed teleporter door outside of the Dark Aether realm. This was fairly simple for teams to figure out, but the next step once again caught a few teams off guard. An unforgiving mobile soul box defense followed that could be pretty brutal if you were unprepared, requiring some team coordination and possibly a gobblegum or two to complete. The hardest part of this step, however, would be surviving the infuriating bugs that came with it. After inputting the code of the door, upon returning to the Dark Aether, some players would be teleported into the sky before falling directly to their death instead of remaining on the platform that was meant to stop this.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Players who survived this fall and or the soul box were finally granted Ul's Arrow for the first time in almost 8 years. Reactions to this were pretty awesome, as the upgraded ice staff was infinitely more powerful than the base version, with some impressive AoE effects and a neat alternate fire mode that allowed you to revive teammates from afar. The ammo for this healing ability was understandably limited, but this feature caused some unexpected difficulty for the discovery of the next Easter egg step. A team noticed that healing ammo could be used to start the mini rituals at each of the mob statues around the map. These were quite a nice touch, with each ritual being slightly different than the last, but this step was a little tainted for a couple of reasons. Firstly, by this point, we've already done so many lockdown style steps, and so another defend the area mechanic just felt samey, lazy, whatever you want to call it. What tainted this more, and I mean this no pun intended, was a bug with the parasite ritual. The parasite ritual could cause players to become stuck in a soft lock, where they were unable to move their staff due to the energy remaining in their hand the entire time. Although if there's any place for a bug, it's probably on the step where you're fighting bugs. By this point, if you had survived round 1 error codes, HUD-related FPS drops, shock charge crashes, falling from the sky, and an array of other soft locking mechanics, you were ready to enter the boss fight. After fighting the incredibly cool bosses on the previous Black Ops 6 maps, players were anxiously anticipating what they would be forced to fight in the tomb. We had fought a giant mutant sea monster on Terminus, a flaming warrior on CDM, and even 3 incredibly tough enemies during the blood sacrifice. So surely we were in for something special here too. And to give Treyarch credit, none of us could predict what we would be met with.
It's time. It's time. I was here. I was here. Come on.
Here we go. Here we go.
Sentinel artifact.
Yes. Wait. They're fighting a artifact? Wait, it's a mirror.
Are we?
It's fighting a mirror.
Yep. You saw that right. The boss of the tomb was not an awoken undead monster, not a skeleton, and not a mummy, nor was it anything that looked menacing or scary to begin with. It was truly nothing more than the love child of the Shrek Mirror and Clash of Clans Inferno Tower. Ironically, however, this boss fight would have players in a chokehold more than any of the previous bosses mentioned. Although this was due to more fatal flaws in the boss's design than outright difficulty, teams found themselves stumped for a significant period of time in the boss room, as no one could figure out how to do damage to the boss. Those who know Destiny raid boss encounters are familiar with the concept that finding the mechanic to do damage to the boss can sometimes be the hardest part, taking hours in some cases to find. This led some of us to wonder if the previously mentioned flaws of the map were due to the fact that Treyarch had plowed all of their resources into designing the most complex boss fight in Zombies history. Teams really began to try everything: shooting the mirror, reflecting things off the mirror, blocking its beam, shooting the statues, and even searching for special enemies or items in the area, but nothing was working. Noah J was the first to suggest to his team that maybe they needed to shoot the mirror a lot, but every time they focused on shooting the mirror, the damage dealt and values shown were so little it was clearly unsustainable for the entire fight. To add complexity to figure this out, the boss arena had locked players inside and they were unable to leave to retrieve other weapons or equipment to test. Noah suggested a reset early on. After discovering the ice staff, ray gun, Sally and Forth, and other explosive damage types did not hurt the boss. But this was a brave call, as we were still unsure whether pure damage was the answer, and explosives had not been an issue on the previous bosses. Resetting the run could have been a very dumb call, but it turned out to be the right one. As we would come to find out, you really just needed incredibly strong and highly upgraded weapons to cook this thing and blast through its DPS check. This step is going to be controversial and split the room. On one hand, it's a lazy DPS check, so disappointing in comparison to Terminus and CDM, and grinding points and salvage is far from the most enjoyable mechanic. On the other hand, I quite enjoy this, as it might be the only time that fully upgraded weapon tiers and Pack-a-Punch are needed to beat a boss, and it's nice that a final boss has a fittingly tanky health bar for a change. Although the more cynical and realistic voice inside of me recognizes that this boss is probably designed in this way to elongate the otherwise simple Easter egg, forcing players to spend unskippable time upgrading their gear. But I'm just going to try and ignore that voice for now. After it was discovered that you could shoot the mirror and eventually deal enough damage to break it, another mirror spawned in. For 2 mirrors, then 4 mirrors, then something different, 1 mirror on a zombie or on a mini boss with a time window to deal damage to it. This was admittedly ridiculously hard as the boss lowered in health, as 4 types of enemies spawned in as the health on the boss got lower, a tight DPS window on top of a tighter amount of health that you had. This would be the hardest part of the fight by far and away. But funny enough, we weren't done. See, Treyarch took another page out of the Bungie book and decided to do this.
Kobe, come on, please, please.
It's immune, it's immune.
Oh, it is. There must be something else. What? Wait.
Don't leave, don't leave.
Wait, no,
Don't leave,
no,
don't leave.
No.
He doesn't know.
He's trying to figure out, is he dead? Does he think he didn't do enough damage? Because, what he's saying is he thinks because all of the purple beams went in, it's a wipe mechanic. That is exactly, he's right. I think he is right. I think he is getting wiped. I think. He was right.
No!
He was right.
No!
He was
He
right.
can't even save him.
No, I know, it's over. He had a moment to and he didn't.
A final stand and a final wipe by Kingman. It was a tragedy to see unfold, but it made sense that with Treyarch pushing the big zombies Easter eggs to have big spectacle bosses, or in this case, a little tiny mirror, that they would add some surprises to keep things interesting. Twitter user Kawasaki declared himself as the world's first completion for the tomb, although he posted this quite early with not a ton of proof other than a screenshot, leading some people to believe that foul play was involved. But this was later confirmed to be 100% legit, so GG's all around. Now comes an important point in the video that I would really appreciate you paying attention to in its entirety before you comment. And no, it's not a sponsor. The Tomb is not one big stinking pile of poo. It's not the worst map in Zombies history, nor is it the buggiest, somehow. However, The Tomb is a cocktail of minor issues that mix together to create a less than desirable experience at a time where sentiment towards Treyarch is far from its most positive. Gamers will hate on things at the best of times, but they will truly rip you to shreds when they're already out for blood. Treyarch said that they wanted the map to be a more simple Liberty Falls style, as it was their most popular map, while blatantly playing dumb to the fact that Liberty Falls is popular because everyone recognizes it as the camo grinding map that launched alongside the Big Fun map. Don't get me wrong, if you can fight through the bugs, the Tomb is a legitimately good, if not better, alternative for a camo grinding map, with plenty of quick side Easter eggs allowing for an easy setup, as well as vermin and parasite spam rounds, rituals to complete those respective challenges with relative ease. For the near future at least, I don't think the community is going to remember the map for that, as it had a fatal flaw of launching as its own standalone map with an easy comparison to one of the greatest zombies maps ever created. Both through its design and Easter egg steps, it's clear to see that this map was rushed through production, and the staff and Origins references were an easy way to market the map to bring a falling player base back. Reused assets around the map, a JPEG for the skybox, repeated Easter egg mechanics throughout, and truly shocking bug quality control are shining examples of a map that unfortunately didn't get the time Liberty Falls, Terminus, and CDM did. There's also the slightly more serious reality that the fallout from the voice actor AI controversy is clear to see in this map. The complete lack of an intro cutscene and the weirdly quiet final cutscene made it awkwardly obvious that all was not well behind the scenes during the Tomb's development. Like, seriously, just watch this and tell me that this doesn't feel like someone has accidentally muted dialogue in the game. Ultimately, this is a real shame, as despite the negative things I've said about the map, it does have plenty of good features. The atmosphere is varied around the map, and the contrast between the bright spawn, gloomy main map, and the fantasy of the dark aether is a really nice environment to be in. There's no facility feel, even if despite the map's relatively small size. Furthermore, the upgraded wonder weapon is awesome to use. The side Easter eggs are plentiful with great rewards, and there are some genuinely challenging and testing gameplay features like the blood sacrifice and defense steps. I just can't help but feel that all of the bugs, voice actor controversy, ridiculous boss, and inevitable comparisons to Origins will, at least in the short term, cause this map to get a pretty significant roasting from different portions of the player base. Only time will tell how this map will be remembered in the long term. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know your thoughts down below.